The synchronicity, yeah, let me talk about that.
Talk.
Yeah, it also reminds me of like the importance of community because the phone
Mm-hmm.
wants to make me, yeah. So like the importance of community because I've noticed a pattern where, because I'm multi-creative, in the last few months this year, I've been very like prolific, more prolific than in any of my previous years.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to my visual and my movement arts like dance and painting,
Mm-hmm.
it's a very solitary practice. But when it comes to my poems and stories, a lot of them have been created. I've created them within the context of communities, usually at writing workshops that I take online. And the same thing happened yesterday because it was also the 11th anniversary of the LA Poets Society, and they had a 5-hour Zoom call, and I took part in that. And part of it was the writing workshop, poetry workshop. And that's when I ended up writing this like
Mm-hmm.
most meaningful story of my life, and it's called The God of Light and Order versus the Goddess of Chaos and Darkness.
Wow.
And and you know how darkness is seen as evil and all that. I wanted to flip that.
Mm-hmm.
So like, giving credit where credit is due, like the story is mine, it's original, but the idea for the story, like that theme, came from N.K. Jemisin, where she wrote the Inheritance trilogy, and in fact, in that trilogy of novels, she actually had the God of Light and Order be the evil one, and uh, the chaos and darkness be the good side, actually. So, so she totally flipped that. So I haven't even finished that novel, but I was partly inspired by that as I started writing when I got the writing prompts. And actually, at first, I even resisted the writing prompts. I finished a different poem, which was on thanks taking, no thanks, no giving. So I ended up finishing two pieces. And then later on, I came back to the story. And this time it just flowed. And in the second part, there was this whole like mysterious symbolism and metaphor of the bird turning into different birds, and finally the Garuda, which is from my Hindu culture, but it's also in many Southeast Asian cultures.
Mm-hmm.
And even I didn't fully understand my own story until I started looking up this day, Kartik Purnima.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I was young, I know the Garuda to be this big bird. That was all I remember because I'm still on my own journey of decolonizing, right? So this is the synchronicity. It's amazing. Um, so I found out that that's when I found out that this day, Kartik Purnima, is to celebrate Vishnu's, the god Vishnu's waking up from his meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found out he rides the bird Garuda. He rides it. That's his vehicle. And that Garuda is known as the king of birds because he's the biggest bird, and he's his own intelligent being, and he can also shapeshift. He represents courage and fighting for justice and things like that. And and then I found out a deeper symbolism, and then it just blew my mind because when I found out that symbolism, because I suddenly realized the meaning of my own story besides the thing about darkness and light, the second meaning, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the deeper symbolism is that because Vishnu is riding Garuda, sometimes in Hinduism, Vishnu is a symbol for the super soul, and Garuda is a symbol for the soul. So it's like basically the ego surrendering to God, basically in a sense. And and then I read my story again. I'm like, oh my God, it's the exact same symbolism in the story that I didn't even realize before, right? Because the
Wow.
bird literally wanders into the darkness, into the dark void at the end after becoming the Garuda.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Kundan. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, I do believe that um that synchronicities are reflective of our our perfect place on whatever path we are on. So keep on creating, keep on, speaking your truth, and keep on, relaying others' truths. And it is very, very effective, more effective than you probably think.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is necessary. And I think moments like that are very beautiful. And I've experienced a handful of those myself. That is super specific. Like sometimes my synchronicities are just like in my head, like, oh, things that I think relate to one another that aren't very direct, but I kind of do my own, mental mathematics to be like, oh, well, that means that. But that is just a very clear sign. That was just super synchronistic. So, very, very happy for you, and I can't wait to hear that story one day. Maybe you can share
Yeah.
that.
Can I read it now?
Yeah, is it what? How, is it like lengthy or?
Yeah, it's pretty short. Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
It's
go
a,
for
it's a micro story, basically. Yeah.
it.
Like one of my my story about the bird. I mean, the seahorse and the snake. Yeah. So, all right. Oh, wait. Are you still here, right? Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
The God of light and order versus the goddess of chaos and darkness, part one. Do you remember the moment the light blinded you from that dark, infinite void inside you, the fertile chaos that nourished the soil of your creative focus and expression? That was the light of God, of light and order. He wanted all the power in the world. And the goddess of chaos and darkness disappeared from our eyes, existing everywhere, the empty dark of space, the darkness beneath the swirl, and the dark void within us on the right side of our hearts, but hidden from you, only available for those who don't participate in demonizing her. Part 2. Hello, darkness, my old friend. It's been a while. I remember the first moment I discovered you. You were so different from the fancy fake bliss of white light. You were something else. A deep peace, a vast space, infinite rest, big relief. Deep breaths. Sigh. My bird felt free from its cage of light and the order imposed by those in power and privilege. My bird was a hummingbird at first, humming along merrily, flitting about from one new original idea into another, one new hidden room to another in the newly discovered mansion inside myself. Now that so many previously locked doors were open, with each room it visited, it became stronger and stronger. It changed into a sparrow, then a parrot, and then an eagle, and then an albatross, and finally a garuda, spreading its gigantic wings all across every room of my mansion. As it hugged it, all the walls fell down, total chaos, darker than it had ever been. At first, I was so scared, but the chaos freed me up even more because now there was no more order at all to hold me prisoner. All that was left was pure, infinite, chaotic openness that also contained infinite order, but so much more.
Wow, I love that. Super symbolic. And right off the bat, your first line about like the blinding light resonated with me a lot, and I like how you personified light and dark in ways that are in a way that's opposite of what authors often do.
Mhm.
And it reminded me of yesterday. I was modeling. I had a photo shoot, and we were working with the sunlight, so I had to like stare or like look at the sun for like a little too long, and it was blinding and it hurt, and like it hurt my eyes. Like even today, my eyes look weird. So light, too much light can definitely be harmful. And I even thought of how you mentioned like all the like the mansion with inside yourself, and sometimes like I don't know if you've seen houses with like all of the lights are on. Like this is unnecessary. Why do you every single light in
Yeah.
the room that much light? You know,
Mm.
sometimes it can be very I don't know, like how would you say it? Like overdone. So yeah, that's kind of how I interpreted it. But yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And thank you so much for sharing with it. I was trying to sit with it and meditate,
Yeah.
process everything.
Yeah, it's very meditative. For me, it's almost like a spell too. Like every time I read it, even to myself, I feel like closer to that fertile, like dark void, the creative source
Yeah,
of creativity.
definitely. And I was also thinking about like this metaphorical harmful light as like the spotlight, right? And how oftentimes when you
Mm.
in the spotlight or under pressure, under public scrutiny, it can be very intimidating. It can be hurtful, and it can just leave you feeling as though you need to like tap dance or perform or do something, but it's like an inauthentic version of whatever whatever comes out of yourself and in that
Mm.
spotlight. So there's
Mm.
power in being in the darkness and really um like kind of like the concept of what you do when no one's watching, like that really shows your
Mm.
character. So that's kind of how
Exactly.
I'm
Yeah.
embracing darkness in that metaphor.
Yeah, it's like how when people in the spotlight too much too long, they end up like doing
Mm-hmm.
drugs or sex or and they end up destroying themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that story all too well. But we are breaking toxic cycles, Kundan. We are breaking toxic cycles.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, thank you
Well,
again. And would you like to tell us your goal for this week before we open up the platform?
yeah, I think I want to go deeper into my culture, and there's something called a sadhana, which actually my mom suggested I do like a week or two ago, and which is, and I think I want to do it with this story
Mm-hmm.
and maybe chant a mantra on the same time and same day every day for like 7 days or 9 days. She says that she chanted the same mantra for like on the exact same time and same day, same place. It's a Buddhist mantra, but you can do any mantra basically, and then have a specific wish, and it's like a spell basically. And because she ended up selling houses, and she ended up selling her lands or some of her lands in the middle of a pandemic in Burma when no one expected that she would sell, by doing that. And she suggested I do that too. So I
Wow.
might do that with this story. Use it like as a seed to chant the mantra and do the sadhana.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because I think similar whether it's a prayer, whatever word you have for it, it's kind of a similar idea in different cultures. A prayer, a mantra. I may be overlapping, but um, my grandma did something similar. She told me a story when she was younger. It's very a personal story, but long story short, she would pray for the same thing on her knees until one day it finally came true. So I'm talking about, well, earlier I spoke about, speaking things into existence, affirming yourself, whatever you would like to call it. I do believe in it, and yeah, I encourage you all to speak your truth, and speak your dreams into the world and repeat them as often as you think is necessary. But it does, in my opinion, it does make a difference, whether it's pushing yourself to achieve that goal with a reminder every day, or whether it's informing others of what you're trying to accomplish. Just the power of is stronger than we think.
Yeah, it's the commitment and devotion and repetition builds up the energy. It's like a container. People in Western culture have like a misunderstanding of magic and manifestation. It's like not always a literal direct thing. It's more like building up the energy so that you kind of align things more in your favor. That's all it really does. Is just like tips the scales a little bit towards you. That's what it's actually about,
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Kundan. I appreciate your conversation every Monday. I hope to speak to you very soon, and I look forward to maybe seeing your story somewhere very soon, or hearing it somewhere very soon.
All right. Appreciate being here. Much love.
Much love. Bye, Kundan. Freddie. So you like putting other people on the spotlight, but you don't like being put in the spotlight for yourself. How does it feel, sir? How does it feel? But no, yeah, it is a real thing, and I've talked with, I forgot who was talking with, what did you say? But with someone like just putting you on the spot. So it's like, okay, well, when I tell people I'm a singer, like a rapper, they're like, all right, we'll sing. Or I've been on the other side of this this interaction where someone told me they were a comedian, and I was like, oh, cool, tell me a joke. And then she was like, am I your little puppet? Like, what? No, I'm not gonna tell you a joke. And I was like, okay. But yeah, there's that that feeling, right? It's like, oh, well, you're expecting me to provide you this entertainment at the snap of your fingers. And sometimes you got to be in the mood, and I've been there, and I totally understand. But if you're really good at your craft, you will probably be able to do it on the spot. Whether you want to or not,
What's happening?
is entirely up to you. But